Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Femme Fatale After Dark, the podcast where we talk about everything and anything. I'm your host Kelly, also known as Femme Fatale online, and today's episode is called BB's Burnout and Balance. So in this episode we'll be chatting about what it means to be an Airsoft content creator, how to not burn out when you're being constantly online and constantly creative, and I'm going to give you a couple of anecdotes about my own burnout, and hopefully you'll be able to avoid the mistakes that I made. So join me after dark. Firstly, I want to take a second to thank you all so much for all the love that you showed the first episode of After Dark. I got a few emails, obviously because my comments are off right now, saying how much you enjoyed it and how much it resonated with you, and I can't thank you enough for that. I was really nervous about releasing the first episode and all my fears have now been put at bay, so I hope you enjoy the rest of the series. And yeah, let's get into today's episode. So today's episode is called BB's Burnout and Balance. And for the longest time, I know this sounds crazy, but I actually thought that burnout was a complete myth. I was like, how can you do what you love every single day and then, suddenly hate it? But guess what? It's real, it happened to me. And I wish I had taken it more seriously before it happened. It was a long time coming. I always assumed that when I had an episode of burnout, if it even existed, that's what I thought at the time, that it would be really noticeable. It would be like, bam, done, and I would see it happening. But I didn't see it happening for months and months and months. So this took place from, I would say, December 2023 all the way up till October 2024. So it was a really long period of time, and it started really, really slow. So I think the catalyst for all of this was I was having a lot of difficulties with brands. I think one thing that irritates the living shit out of me in business especially is when people aren't upfront. Like, if you can't pay the invoice, send an email, just let people know where you're at. If you're not happy with something, let people know where you're at. Don't just expect people to be like a fucking mind reader. It started in December 2023. I had been working with a brand and I didn't get a lot of feedback from them. Now, I love to hear feedback. I want to know what you're happy with, what you're not happy with. What can we do to change it? What's working, what isn't? I love that because it makes you happy and it means I can perform in my work better. So that's what I like from my content creation clients, and it's kind of what I've come to expect. And I have relationships with companies that are very much like, they'll tell me what they like, what they didn't like, and I'll take it on board. And that's the kind of jam that I really like. I don't like it when companies just don't give me any feedback at all. So I was working with this company, I was promoting their products, and their products were good. And it got towards the end of their contract. And so I sent them an email, sent them a text saying, hey, it's up in like a month's time. Is there anything that you want to chat about in the future? Like, did you want to carry on or did you want to take a break? Like, happy to work with you on this. And I went up to their shop, had a big chat with them, and it was like, yes, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. Didn't hear anything from them after that. That was that. Didn't hear anything from them. They still had a month's worth of invoices to pay. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I just got fired. I guess I just got sacked. Which, quite frankly, was one of the rudest ways to do things. If you don't want to carry on, just let me know. That's totally fine. Like, I'm not gonna scream, cry, punch you in the face. I'm just gonna be like, okay, no worries. Goals change, finances change, things change, business changes. It left me feeling funny. It left me feeling like, oh, well, they haven't paid me for my last month's work, even though I'd already did the work. I don't do that now. If I don't get paid, I don't do the work. So I should have done that a long time ago. But I was always like, no, these people are my friends. They're not your friends. They're people you work with. I was like, do they not value my work? Do they not value what I do? Do they not value the results I brought? And it started there. That's when it started. It started to make me feel really, really shit about myself. And what compounded on that experience was in December, I was helping a company promote their event they were running. And you know what? I believed in them because I was like, this sounds like a really cool opportunity for Airsoft. And so I was working with them and they were so complimentary. They were like, yes, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Like, that's such a good idea. There were little bits here and there which were like, oh, can we change this? And I was like, yeah, of course we can. Just send me a text or an email and I'll get that sorted for you, no problem. So it got to the point where I sent them their December invoice and I was like, hey, it's due on this date, are you okay to get paid? And the guy was like, yes, absolutely. And then a couple days after, he was like, oh, I'm really sorry, we're struggling with this. Are we okay to delay it by like a week? And I said, yeah, of course. I know things happen, I know things change. Thank you so much for letting me know. They delayed and delayed and delayed. Now, they delayed paying all the way up until the 2nd of January. And at the point where I got paid, I finished off the rest of my work. I sent them an email saying, hey, I don't think this is a good fit for us, and that was that. And then a few weeks later, I had to send them another email being like, can you remove them from your Facebook page? And it is the company's responsibility to manage who has permissions to their pages. They said, don't text us, read your emails. And at some point, they'd sent me an email at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was a very emotionally charged email. It was basically saying that if I didn't return the money within 7 days, then they'd take me to court. Love that. So I got my business development manager to email them back to be like, basically get fucked. I did all my work. I did all my work on time. You didn't pay me on time. You broke your part of the contract. I didn't break mine, actually. Thank you very fucking much. I am really conscientious of my work. I like people to think well of me. I like to be thought of as a professional in what I do. I'm not going to be bullied by anyone. No, but it still left me with that feeling of, why didn't people value my work? Why were they paying me late? Why weren't they paying me at all? Do you know, all those sorts of things. And this was around the time that the recommendations guidelines had really punched the airsoft industry in the fucking face. So the recommendation guidelines came in at the end of 2022, start of 2023, and it basically meant that anything that had restricted goods, so things like airsoft replicas, were no longer recommended, so you won't show up in the feeds. You won't show up in the explore page, and basically your account won't be shown to anybody, which sucks, which absolutely fucking sucks. And it was really hard, I won't lie. Like, I felt like I was doing a lot of work and not getting a lot out of it. Like, it made me really anxious about money and finances and business. Like, it made me think, like, am I a shit business person? But then looking back on it, I don't think it was me, I think it was them. But at the time, like, those thoughts just drill into your brain. They just drill in. I went to IWA in Germany, and honestly, that was a fantastic experience. Like, everyone was really lovely. I even got a text from the managing director of the company that stiffed me on that invoice in November. I didn't reply to it because I was like, I don't really have anything to say to you. That was unprofessional of me. I should have been like, yeah, no worries, mate. But I was like, I'm just not replying to this. And then in May, we went to Houston. We went to EVIC Outpost at High Ground Airsoft for their annual Palooza event. That was the event where we got upgraded to not first class, business class. It may as well have been fucking first class with the amount of gin cocktails I drank on board. We didn't pay for that. We paid for premium economy, and we got upgraded at the very last minute. And I was like, best experience ever. If you ever get the chance to fly business, take it with both fucking hands and fucking shake the life out of it. But we went to Texas and I was really fired up again. I love being in the States. It's a bit spicy right now, so I'm not sure if I'll be back this year, but like, I love being in the States. I was really fired up because I was really enjoying making content with my friends, and that was really cool. And then we came back home and all that fire kind of went out again. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And eventually it was at the point where I was crying every day because I was so anxious about work, how my content was performing, all these other things, that I decided once I finished my work with BZ Tactical in October, and after I finished my Airsoft Con content in October as well, that I would take 6 months off to give my brain a fucking break. And I can't tell you how good that break has been. But I'm back now, and let's talk about it. So that was my experience of burnout, and as you can hear from it, it was spread over a long period of time. I didn't know it was coming. I didn't see it happening. It just hit me one day randomly on a fucking Thursday, and then I was like, oh no, what do I do in my life? Do I really like this? And it was a bit of a mess, actually. But let's talk about what it means to be a content creator in Airsoft. And I think this didn't really necessarily matter years and years ago, because we didn't have, like I said, the recommendations guidelines came in 2022 and 2023. So before that, our content was shown around the world to everybody, pretty much. We didn't have this issue of our content wasn't being recommended, it wasn't being shown, it wasn't being actively suppressed. I would get up in the morning, pack my car, my airsoft kit, I'd drive to Extreme Airsoft, I'd spend the entire day making that content, and it felt worth it. And I know now that you shouldn't base your self-worth on how well your content performs. You shouldn't do that, because that is a one-way street to being fucking miserable. So that's what I did for the longest time. I didn't get burnt out on it because I fucking loved it. I was having a great time. And I remember one of my pictures got 7,000 likes. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it was awesome. And it gave me a big boost. And I was like, this is worth it. Everything's worth it. And then it wasn't until the recommendations guideline changed and I got slapped with that, your account cannot be shown to anybody, that it was like, oh my God, this is hard. Because at that point, I was still spending every single day making content. I was making the content, but now it wasn't being shown to anybody. So therefore it wasn't performing very well. And I was like, what? How is this fair? How is this fair? The thing is, it isn't fair at all. But the thing is, it's like, I've always said this when people are like creating petitions and stuff to basically like take these guidelines away. We live in their world. They are private companies, and unfortunately private companies have the right to manage their platforms as they wish. If they don't want guns on their platform, they don't have them. If they don't want nudity on their platform, they don't have it. People have argued with me about that in the past, but that is unfortunately how it is. And we're in their game, we're in their world, we've just got to play by the rules the best way we can. But after that, it became really hard to get any sort of traction on Instagram posts. TikTok is different and so is YouTube. But all that meant I just didn't fucking want to. I was burnt out, couldn't be arsed. I didn't even know if I wanted to come back to Airsoft in like December last year. I had no idea because I'd only had 3 months off and I was like, oh God, what if it's the same? What if it's the same? Because I don't want to keep doing this like this. But actually, I have now figured out a way to keep myself, obviously the time away was great, the time away was essential. And I think if you are also feeling burnt out on your own social media, then take a break. You will find people that will tell you to post every single fucking day, and that is not what you need to do. Right, let's talk about this. I had a list of bullet points for this topic and I wanted to go through them. I don't know where that list has gone, so we're just going to go through what goes on my brain, in the brain, okay? So you don't have to post every day. People tell you that. A lot of like coaches and gurus and social media managers will tell you have to post every day. And the reason they tell you to post every day is because it gives you more chance of going viral. So you could put something out tomorrow and it could go viral. So you're always chasing virality. That's the mentality behind that. But you don't have to post every single day. What I'll say is you have to post consistently. Consistency is better than just posting. Because realistically, who's making 90 great videos a month? Who's making 90 great videos a month? When I've seen these lists of posts you can make, they'll be like, you need to post 3 times a day and here's the answers. And like some of the like video ideas are shit. They're shit. So low effort, why would people want to watch that? I don't want to fucking watch that. I tell you. They're so low effort, and you can tell they're low effort, and your audience can also tell they're low effort. It grinds my gears actually, because it's like, I feel like you should put in effort with your communities, but some people are like, no, we just need to post as much as possible. So I think expecting yourself to post 3 times a day, every single day for months on end is unrealistic, especially if you have a full-time job. That's fucking crazy talk. If you can do that, amazing, but like, I think it's a bit unrealistic. I think what's more realistic is posting consistently and posting high quality content. I think that's actually what matters. And I think you have to stick to the pillars of content. So you need to post things that are entertaining, you need to post things that are educational, and you need to post things that are informative. Those are what I try to, and relatable actually. Relatable's in there. I've stopped putting the expectation on myself to post every single day if I don't have anything to post. I now post every 2 or 3 days. So, you know, it keeps my account active and relevant, but it doesn't burn me out. So that's one thing I don't do now. I don't expect myself to post 3 times a day, every day. Another thing I do now to avoid burnout in content creation is batch creating. And I think this is something that will help so many people. So I have a couple of businesses that I run outside of Femme Fatale, so I have less time to do Femme Fatale now. I still make time for it, obviously, because I'm here chatting with you, but I now I don't have chance to make content all day, every day. So I batch create my content. And batch creating is basically where, if I was to take you through my process of batch creating, on Monday, I would, go through my Reels feed and everything else and figure out what is trending, what is, working what I should be making videos of, if there's anything I need to jump on, and then I will write that all down. And then Tuesday, when it comes to film my episode of After Dark, I will then implement all of those things and make sure I've got all the little bits and videos that I want to do. So that way you spend a day creating, or a few hours, depending on the time you've got. That's really important. Don't overextend yourself. So use the time you've got, write a list, write your hooks, write shots you want to get, and then follow your list, stick to it, batch create, and then once you're done creating, you're done. The rest of the time you can edit it and post and put your captions, all that sort of stuff, but batch creating, I find, is, you know, one of the best things you can do for yourself in your content creation journey. After that, I would highly suggest getting yourself a scheduling app, especially if you're going to go on holiday or you're going to be away, like an event where there's no signal. Like, so when we go to Empire, I have to have my scheduler working because I'm in a field with zero signal for 4 days and I don't want to not post in those 4 days. So I would definitely recommend a social media scheduling tool. So the one I use personally is called Metrical. This is not affiliated or sponsored in any way. They're just what I use because I can schedule Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube Shorts. I think Blue Sky is on there and X is on there, but I left Twitter. So there's loads of social media channels that you can post to on there, and you can have, you know, your captions already done. You can invite collaborators now on there, which is fantastic. And yeah, so a social media scheduling app, I spend a day a week just scheduling all my things, or a day every 2 weeks, depending on how much content I've got to post. And then I let the social media scheduler send that out. Sometimes I have to post things manually, and that's totally fine, but it is so freeing and it gives me more time to interact in comments and in my DMs, obviously when my comments are on. But yeah, that would be another tip that I would give you for avoiding creative burnout. Have a scheduling app that can do it for you. And I think my last tip is probably regarding the recommendation guidelines themselves. I know I've spoken about those a lot today, but just be prepared that if you have a replica in your photo, then it will more than likely be in the not recommended list that you can see in your account status. It more than likely will. They're very good at picking up. They use an AI to, you know, scan photos and scan captions. Be very mindful about what you put in your captions. Be very mindful of it, because they have the power to make your content perform worse. Longer captions are valued by most social media platforms now, especially TikTok and especially Instagram. So they are long captions, over 200 words, are going to make your content perform better. But one thing I see is, I see people say on Facebook, like, oh my God, I even wrote fake gun in the caption and it still got flagged. The reason it got flagged is because you put gun in the caption, the word gun. Doesn't matter if you put fake before it, having a caption that says, this is a fake gun, will automatically get flagged because you put the word gun. It blows my fucking mind how many people will turn around and say, so what's wrong with this post? What's wrong with it? And like, they'll send me the post and I'll be like, you've written Glock right there. I did have someone a few years ago, just after these recommendation guidelines came in, turn around and message me and be like, I think you're wrong. And I was like, okay, I didn't ask. Firstly, I didn't ask. Secondly, I've been doing this for like almost 10 years at that point. If you could think I'm wrong, but if you read the guidelines for yourself, you'll see that I am actually correct. I'm not incorrect. And he sent me a picture and was like, well, why has this been flagged? And it's because he wrote, this is a fake gun. You wrote the word gun. The AI saw the word gun, flagged the post. It literally says in the guidelines, do not use gun, like it says in the guidelines that you can't use gun slang, you can't use gun terminology. And you wrote the word gun. What else do you want me to say? So just be mindful about what you put in your caption. If you have a replica in your post, the AI will more than likely flag it. Don't be surprised when it does. And especially if you write, this is a fake gun, this is an airsoft gun, things like that, it will still get flagged. I would honestly say just reading the guidelines and going through them and, you know, taking on board what it says it will and will not recommend. If it says, you know, we don't allow gun terminology, don't use the word gun in the post. I always use the word replica. And then I've been called out by someone who was like, yeah, but it's not actually a replica though. And I was like, no, I know it's not a replica. I know it's not a replica of any real firearm that's currently or has previously been made. I'm aware of that. But if I use the word gun, it could get flagged. So I'm going to use the word replica if that's okay with you. So yeah, that is another tip. Use the word replica. Do not use the word airsoft gun. Airsoft replica. Even if it's not a replica, it doesn't fucking matter. Sometimes I use the acronym RIF, and that stands for realistic imitation firearm, but I'm not sure of the effectiveness of that, so I can't recommend that one, but I sometimes use it. And I've not seen any adverse effects for my own accounts, do you know what I mean? So this has been a busy topic, and I'm aware that it's been like side quests, side stories, all that sort of stuff. But those would be my tips for avoiding creative burnout in the Airsoft sphere. So make sure you're batch creating content, especially if you have a full-time job. So if you want to try and still grow your account and not get burnt out on it, batch create your content, edit it and post it like when you can or when you want. Don't get et up with posting it every single day or 3 times a day, because that's fucking crazy. Post consistently. So if you're posting like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, post Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's okay. Make high quality content and post on those days. So say you've created 12 videos and you want those 12 videos to last you a month, then you would post 3 a week. Post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, consistently. Check your own account for when your followers are most active, but make sure you post, at those times. But consistency, good quality content posted consistently will get you better results than absolute shite content that is posted 3 times a day. That's a hill I will die on. That is a hill I will die on. And then what else do we have? My brain's like, we've talked a lot today. Use a scheduling app. Like I say, Metrical is fantastic. I've heard a lot of people using Later, and Canva now has its own social media scheduling, which is fantastic. So if you already pay for Canva Pro, like I do for my other businesses, it's included in that. You don't have to pay for anything else. You can use it. So that's fantastic. But yeah, overall, we have these tools that we can use to make our lives a little bit easier. Lastly, just be mindful about what you put in your captions. So, if you're putting Airsoft gun, this is a fake gun, things like that in your captions, don't be surprised that, it's been flagged for having restricted goods in it, because, you've literally wrote the word gun and that was in the guidelines. So use something like replica, and also I use realistic imitation firearm, but I put it as RIF, because people in the UK tend to know what that means. I think my other big tip, and this is the biggest takeaway from this, your content's performance does not reflect your value as a content creator, doesn't reflect your worth, doesn't reflect anything except social media algorithms. I know there are people that will say that's not true, but you cannot tie your self-worth to content. You can't. You are more than that. It's been a journey, friends, but I really hope you found it useful or you enjoyed it. But now that I've waffled on for over 45 minutes, I don't think this episode will be 45 minutes when I edit it, but I have been chatting straight for 45 minutes. So thank you so much for listening and watching if you're watching on YouTube. And hopefully my own anecdote about my own burnout has made people feel like they're not alone in that. And also that the tips I've got for batch creating content and still creating content whilst living, the rest of your life has been helpful, and you've taken away something from it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you after dark in a couple of weeks.